Are we responsible for the first recession?
No.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
The president inherited a recession in 2001.
I agree with that.
He immediately cut taxes in 01. He cut taxes in 03. We had 52 weeks, which is a record in the history of the country since they've been keeping statistics, of job growth. There's not been the wage growth that we would have liked. And there are two fundamental reasons for that. One is healthcare costs have gone through the roof. And when employers look at what they pay for their workers, they include the cost of healthcare, retirement, total compensation. And when you've got healthcare costs going through the roof and the employers are paying it, the people that are hurt by it are the employees. They're the ones, it costs them in their wages. And then secondly, our economy, and this has been going on for 25 years, it will not change, and we need to accept it and deal with it. Our economy has been giving, every year we give a greater return to education. The better educated you are, the more money you make, because we are becoming a more skill set, high-tech economy. And 30 years ago, a college degree was worth 45% more than a high school degree. Today, in 2006, it was worth 70% more than a high school degree. Now, there are two ways we can deal with this income inequality problem, and it is a serious problem, and I agree with Austan about that. There are two ways to deal with it. You can pull the top down. You can say, you who are most successful, we're gonna make you less successful, so we'll reduce the income inequality, and that's what the Democrats want to do. We believe that what you should do is lift the bottom and pull the bottom and pull them towards the top. And you do that by improving education, improving job training, improving opportunity. And that's what the Republicans believe in, that's what John McCain believes in, that's what George Bush believes in. Now I want to talk a little bit about taxes, and I think this is important because people do not understand it, because the media and the Democrats who get all the media talk about we are an
I don't know what media you're talking about.
I have so many friends in the audience, and I really appreciate that.
Not anymore.
Oh, I got one friend here. And I brought my wife, thank God.
She's booing.
My kids weren't available. Since World War II, and by the way, and we've had both Democrats and Republicans since World War II, obviously, as leaders of the country. Our economy, for the most part, has been very, very strong. We're the strongest economy in the world among developed countries. Our average income as a percent of GDP has averaged 18.1%. I had a slide, but some way the technology didn't get here. I was going to show this, but we've averaged 18.1%. We are currently collecting 18.8% of GDP. I happen to believe that when you tax something, you get less of it, and most economists believe that. So the point is, we are not an under-taxed society. At the current point, we're collecting more in taxes than we should, if we believe we shouldn't collect more in taxes than we collected on average since the beginning of World War II. And so, therefore, the idea of extending President Bush's tax cuts is absolutely appropriate. We need to deal with the AMT. I don't know if people are familiar with that. Y'all tend to be higher income, so you're probably familiar with it. The alternative minimum tax, which is if you have to figure your taxes two different ways, and it's capturing more and more people. The idea was it was a tax for millionaires who have lots of deductions, but now if it's not passed, it goes as low as, I don't know, $200,000 or something. But the point is, we can permanently patch the AMT, we can permanently extend the president's tax cuts, and we do not go below that 18.1% of GDP. So there is no reason for us to raise taxes on anyone, and people say that the rich are undertaxed. I think 35% federal tax rate is a very significant tax rate, and you pay on top of that your state taxes, your local taxes, etc. I mean, taxes determine what your incentive is to work. I appreciate that.
That's all you got.
That's all, a few. Thank you, Kathy.
Maybe you should stop.
Then I want to just mention one thing on Social Security, and this is important. I want you to understand what the problem is, and this is a concern that, spending is a huge problem in America. We just passed the Farm Bill, which made absolutely no sense. The president vetoed it. Republicans and Democrats voted to override his veto. Congress spends, and they look for every opportunity to spend, And the more money we give them, the more they're going to spend. And I hate to say it, Republicans are almost as bad as Democrats, or maybe even worse at times. If you look at the late 90s and you talk to people when we had the surpluses, that's when they really started spending money. But the point on Social Security, and this is important, Social Security today produces an $80 billion surplus. And guess where that money goes? You know, we have a unified budget, so that money goes to offset our other spending, and it just is all mixed together. Well, by 2017, that $80 billion surplus in Social Security goes to zero. By 2033, it's going to be a negative $300 billion and keep growing. Now, how do you fix that? You can't tax your way out of it. And I want to give you an example of why you can't tax your way out of it. It's unclear Senator Obama's position on lots of things. You know, he's a moving target right now, as we all know. He changed his position twice on Iraq day before yesterday. Literally, he said he was going to reconsider about withdrawing troops, and then he said, I'm not going to reconsider about withdrawing troops. Here's the important point. If we lifted, right now you pay Social Security taxes on your first $102,000 of income. If we lifted that entirely, but kept the link, so if you pay more in Social Security taxes, you get more benefits, then we would go to zero rather than 2017, it would go to 2024. But then after 2024, we would start building these big deficits in the Social Security budget. Okay, if we delinked them, so we just made people who earn over $102,000 pay the 12.4%, but we didn't increase their benefits, then the surplus we would turn to a deficit in 2025. It only gives us 8 years. The bottom line is we can't solve Social Security through taxation. The only way we can solve Social Security is we've got to reform the system. And unfortunately, as we all know, and I understand President Bush is not a very popular person here, he did everything he possibly
Or anywhere else.
Actually, you know, he's very popular in my household. It's an 80% approval rating. One of our daughters doesn't like it, but, you know, President Bush tried to get Congress to deal with Social Security unsuccessfully. And I was his point person, and I failed at that. But my conclusion, to be perfectly honest, and I say this, I'm a business guy. That's my primary job. I mean, that's been my career, not politics. And my conclusion is Congress will not deal with anything like Social Security where there's going to be some pain involved until there's a true crisis. 1982, the Greenspan Commission, where we had Tip O'Neill and Reagan finally cut a deal. It was a crisis. They were out of dough. They were out of money. They had to fix it or the checks weren't going to go out. You know, right now we're not at that point, and that's why Congress, on both sides of the aisle, would not come together and deal with it.